Hi, my name's Scott Dusenberry, and with this video I'm just going to go over a brief overlook of the deal, the negotiations in particular of the deal between Disney when it was purchasing the Marvel franchise. I chose this particular negotiation and this particular deal because, in my opinion, given the hindsight that we have in 2015, given that this deal went down in 2009, that this is one of the most successful deals in the entertainment industry that I've seen in a long time. I mean, obviously, the Marvel movies have grossed billions of dollars by this point, and both companies seem to be very successful, both Disney and Marvel, as a result of their partnership. So this is clearly something that went well, and I think because of that, I think it bears examining the negotiations that led up to this deal and and how those negotiations led to such a good working relationship between the two companies. With that, let's start with the conflict. The conflict is kind of subtle with the Marvel and the Disney deal because the fact is there wasn't a whole lot, not in comparison to some others. The main idea was just that Disney wanted to purchase Marvel. Disney primarily wanted to expand its character line, and as a result, particularly to expand its audience from and also its image from the traditional Disney, very family oriented, to something that will attract a wider audience, such as young boys and also the people who like action and adventure and comic books. The conflict occurred because while Disney wanted to purchase Marvel to gain these characters and to gain these opportunities, or Disney did, the Marvel CEO, Ike Perlmutter, didn't want to sell despite liking Disney. Perlmutter liked Disney, he liked what they did, he thought they were a good company, but he didn't want to sell the company or Marvel to them because of various different reasons. But essentially it just boiled down to Perlmutter was saying no, Disney wanted them to say this, yes, and that was where the conflict came from in this deal. So what Disney's position was that it wanted Marvel's creative writing staff for its own. It wanted its people, it wanted its staff, it wanted the genius that had created an entire world and numerous very successful characters, so it could, expand those characters, it could just expand that world and use them for its own profit and also just to attract wider audiences. There was about, the estimates vary, but about 5,000 to 7,000 unique Marvel characters were involved in the deal, and the only ones that Disney wasn't trying to go after at the time were the characters that were currently under contractual obligations to other companies. So that was what Disney wanted. That was its position, is it wanted those Marvel characters, it wanted the Marvel Universe. Marvel's position was it wanted a fair asking price because it was no longer at a risk of bankruptcy. For a while, Marvel kept getting sold and sold multiple times because it was in dire financial situation. It was risking bankruptcy frequently. But recently, under its new CEO, it was actually very successful. It was making a lot of money. It wasn't declaring bankruptcy. It was the epitome of a successful company at the time that Disney wanted to purchase it. So they wanted a fair asking price. Marvel also wanted limited oversight and micromanagement. One of the main reasons why Perlmutter didn't want to sell the company is because he loved writing for Marvel. He loved working for Marvel. He loved the world and the company and the stories and all the characters. So he didn't want that taken over by Disney and him left out in the cold, or did many of the other writers that worked for Marvel. So they wanted to make sure that if they did sell themselves to Marvel, that they were still going to get a lot of their own, be given a lot of leeway, a lot of their own ideas and stuff like that, without a whole lot of interference from Disney itself. Aside from that, it also primarily wanted stock options over money as compensation. The deal was in the billions of dollars, obviously, because Marvel was very successful at the time. But there was a big argument over whether it would be a flat money basis, like how much money to stock options was going to be included in the deal, with Marvel obviously wanting more stock options because that would mean more money for individuals later down the line. As far as the interest went, Disney's main interests obviously being what was unsaid, what was really underlying their different positions and things like that. Disney's interest was in gaining a group of characters and settings that would appeal to a wider audience. They wanted to attract new viewers. They wanted to attract new people, and to do that, they needed things that would appeal to those new potential new viewers, those other demographics. So even though they said specifically they wanted the Marvel characters, they wanted the Marvel universe, this is what they were really after. They wanted the opportunity to appeal to a wider audience. So I mean that was really what they were going for. Marvel, on the other hand, their interest was being able to continue to produce their comics as they had before and remain faithful to their source material. Again, a lot of these writers and the CEO had been working with Marvel for years. A lot of them had either grown up on Marvel or had been founding members of it. And so they really wanted to keep it faithful. They didn't want Disney coming in and changing everything. They wanted to make sure it was always going to be theirs. And so that's what seemed to be the underlying interest behind a lot of their demands, even the demand for the large compensation, the stock options. They wanted to make sure they were going to be respected, that they were going to retain control over a lot of their intellectual properties here. So those were the two interests between the two companies. There was three main techniques that I thought were used and used very effectively. Was first, mutual benefit. The mutual benefit that was used was Disney gained Marvel and its intellectual properties. That was the main gain for it, and through them it gained the wider audiences and the bigger demographics and all that. Marvel, on the other hand, did gain a lot. Marvel gained access to Disney's vast resources. I mean, Disney's got billions of dollars. They've got artists. They've got special effects crews. These guys are the best of the best in the industry in a lot of ways, and so. That was Marvel could do a lot with that if they joined them. They also gained limited oversight and other compensation through that. So it was a deal that was good for both of them. Everybody kind of won in this situation, even the fans, with the new movies and everything that came out afterwards. As for appreciation, Iger told Perlmutter that he was interested in buying Marvel without trying to manipulate him. He was straight up with Perlmutter. He said, I want to buy Marvel. There was no whining and dining. There wasn't any lies or deceits or manipulations. They were very straightforward with each other, and that showed an appreciation for each other's work. And as for objective criteria, the fact that Disney took Marvel's current financial status into consideration for the deal's price was very important. I mean, they could have thrown any price out there, but they instead tried to build one right from the beginning that was fair for the company and what it was doing. What went well with this deal was that Disney treated Marvel with respect and courtesy, working to make the deal beneficial to everybody. They didn't try to treat them like, a conquest or anything like that. They treated them well, and I think that, more than anything, made this deal go relatively smoothly. As for what went wrong, and this might seem a little bit weird to some people, but I felt that the fact that neither Disney nor Marvel gave serious consideration to how Marvel fans were going to feel about this transition was kind of an oversight. I mean, they weren't directly involved in the negotiations, true, but it doesn't mean that they weren't affected by those negotiations. And because they didn't, neither company gave any idea to what they could do to try to alleviate some of the fears that these fans were having. And as a result, I think that really was something that was very poorly thought out and a large oversight on both companies' parts. This should have been handled much better than it was, and there's a lot of fan art and a lot of jokes that ran around the internet for a long time that kind of hurt the reputation of this deal because people were so scared that Disney was going to ruin Marvel. Same concerns that Marvel had, and yet they didn't think to consider that their fans were thinking the same thing. Finally, as for the agreement, Disney purchased Marvel for $4 billion, which is a lot of money. Marvel retained much of its autonomy. It was owned by Disney, but it was left primarily to its own devices. Marvel stock transferred to Disney stock at a rate of 0.745 Disney shares per Marvel share, which is pretty decent. It meant the stockholders gained a lot of money through that. And then finally, the Marvel shareholders got $30 per share from the sale. So pretty good deal for everybody all around. In the aftermath, the Disney and Marvel merger looked very promising at the time. I mean, obviously, these were two powerhouses that were coming together with the great creativity of Marvel and the vast resources of Disney. It looked like it could go places. A lot of people were leery, but it definitely looked like it could go places. And time has only proven them right. The new Marvel movie franchises are making money hand over fist. It's proven to be an amazing deal and proved great foresight on both sides. So it only looks like it's going to get better into the future. It doesn't look like this, the train's going to get derailed anytime soon. And with that, these last 2 slides are just my resources. These are the resources I got my information from, and these are the resources for the pictures I included in the slides. So I hope you enjoyed my assessment, and yeah, I had a lot of fun talking about this. It was a really good deal. It really proved what can be done and how things can be done right. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it.